From the very first day I stepped into that office, I gave everything I had. My boss was sharp, demanding, and had high expectations, but I was determined to prove myself. I stayed late, often long after the hum of the fluorescent lights turned dim and the empty chairs stood as silent witnesses. I volunteered for tasks no one else wanted: reports, presentations, weekend projects, anything to show I was committed. For 3 years, I poured my heart into that company. I missed birthdays, skipped vacations, and even sacrificed time with friends and family. Every morning, I reminded myself that hard work would pay off, that dedication would not go unnoticed. I wasn't just another employee to me. I was part of something bigger. I believed my efforts were laying a foundation for a future I deserved. But year after year, the same disappointing pattern repeated itself. Raise requests, gently worded emails, and candid conversations all ended with the same cold response. "We appreciate your work, but raises aren't possible right now. Or worse, your current salary is competitive with the market." I was stuck in a loop of denial, the door to advancement sealed shut with invisible locks. Each rejection stung more than the last. I felt like my worth was being erased in slow motion. I was doing the job of 3 people, yet paid like an intern. It wasn't just about money. It was the silent message: "You're not enough." Still, I stayed. I rationalized, telling myself loyalty mattered, that if I just kept grinding, my boss would see me, appreciate me, and finally reward me. But deep down, resentment festered like a quiet wound. The whispers of doubt grew louder. Was I blind? Was I wasting my life waiting for a recognition that would never come? The unfairness of it all began to chip away at my spirit. Then, one night, after a particularly grueling week, I sat alone in my tiny apartment, the city's noise faint through the window. My phone glowed with a new email notification from a job board, an opening that promised respect, growth, and the pay I had been denied for years. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Could I really do it? Should I risk everything for a chance at something better? The answer was clear. I couldn't keep sacrificing my future for someone who refused to see my value. I began the careful process of searching, applying, and interviewing, all in secret. No one in the office suspected a thing. I smiled at my boss every morning, played the loyal employee perfectly, even as my heart raced with hope and fear beneath the surface. That silent struggle between hope and despair, loyalty and self-preservation, was the heaviest burden I had ever carried. But I had made my choice. I was done waiting to be seen. I thought I had been careful, silent, invisible. But somehow, my secret unraveled faster than I imagined. It started with a cold, unexpected message from my boss, summoning me to her office. The air was thick with tension before I even crossed the threshold. Her eyes, once full of professional distance, now burned with something darker. Disappointment, anger, and maybe betrayal. "How long has this been going on?" she demanded, voice sharp like shattered glass. I froze. No matter how prepared I thought I was, the reality of confrontation stunned me. I tried to explain, to plead my case that it wasn't personal, that I needed to think about my future. But she cut me off. "You think loyalty means nothing. After everything you've put me through, I gave you opportunities, and this is how you repay me." Her words pierced through the armor I'd built. The 3 years of hard work, the sacrifices, the sleepless nights, all dismissed in a heartbeat. I felt smaller than I ever had, as if my very existence had been a lie in her eyes. Then came the verdict: immediate termination. No warnings, no second chances. Just cold dismissal. I remember the moment I walked out of that office, the hollow echo of my footsteps down the corridor, the curious glances of colleagues who'd never known the storm raging inside me. The building that had once felt like a second home now seemed like a cage I'd escaped, but not without scars. Outside, the world carried on. The sun shone as usual, the cars buzzed past, and strangers hurried by, oblivious to my shattered dreams. I sat alone in my car, the sting of betrayal burning hot and raw. Anger surged through me, but beneath it was something far more painful: hurt. How could someone I respected so deeply toss me aside without a second thought? For days, I wavered between despair and fury. I replayed every conversation, every missed raise, every empty promise. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was the realization that my loyalty had been a one-way street. But amidst the wreckage, a tiny ember of resolve began to glow. I refused to be the victim in this story. I wouldn't let her define me. If she thought firing me would break me, she was wrong. I started planning, not just for a new job, but for my comeback. A way to rise, not through bitterness, but through quiet strength. I would show her that I was worth far more than she ever gave me credit for. The betrayal had cut deep, but it had also set me free. Losing that job felt like being stripped of my identity. But instead of sinking into bitterness, I used that pain as fuel. The new position I had quietly accepted during my search was everything my old job wasn't: respectful, empowering, and fair. It was a breath of fresh air, a second chance I refused to waste. I threw myself into my new role with a fierce determination, proving my worth every single day. But my mind often wandered back to the place I'd left behind, the office where my loyalty had been discarded. The boss who had underestimated me so deeply. I knew the truth about her micromanagement, the way she stifled talent, the grudging culture she cultivated. And I had proof. Through quiet conversations with former colleagues and careful observation, I gathered stories, documents, and examples of her mismanagement. I learned about client complaints, employee dissatisfaction, and missed opportunities. The company, once vibrant, was faltering under her rule. But I didn't rush to expose her out of spite. Instead, I used subtlety. At industry events, I shared my experiences honestly but tactfully, letting others piece together the bigger picture. I connected former colleagues to better opportunities elsewhere. I let my new success speak for itself. Each promotion, each accolade a quiet rebuke to the woman who had fired me. Word spread, slowly but surely, her grip on the company loosened. Talented employees started leaving, clients hesitated, and rumors of restructuring swirled. My old boss found herself isolated, her authority questioned. Then came the day she reached out. The tone was different now, no longer sharp or accusatory, but uncertain and cautious. She wanted to meet. I agreed, not because I needed her approval, but because I wanted closure. Across the table, I looked at the woman who had once held my future in her hands. Her eyes searched mine, silently asking for forgiveness. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I should have seen your value sooner. I should have fought for you." For a moment, anger flickered inside me. But it was replaced by something stronger: peace. "I learned more from you than you realize," I told her gently. "You taught me the importance of knowing my worth and never settling for less." I stood up, leaving behind the bitterness that had threatened to consume me. As I walked away, I felt lighter, free. The sweetest revenge wasn't in ruining her or the company. It was in rising above, reclaiming my life, and showing the world my true value. And that was something no one could ever take away. The day I left my old company behind wasn't just the end of a painful chapter. It was the beginning of everything I had dreamed of but never dared to chase before. With my new job thriving and my confidence restored, I finally had the freedom to rebuild my life on my own terms. I threw myself into my passions beyond work. I reconnected with friends I had neglected, traveled to places I had always wanted to see, and even started a personal project, a blog to share my journey, my struggles, and my lessons learned. Writing became a catharsis, a way to turn my pain into something meaningful. The new role blossomed beyond expectations. I was recognized not only for my skills, but for the resilience and integrity I carried through every challenge. Promotions followed, and with them came respect, not the grudging, conditional respect I had once craved, but the genuine kind that lifted others up too. One afternoon, months later, I received an unexpected message from one of my former colleagues. She was reaching out, hopeful for advice and support. She'd seen the changes unfolding in our old company and wanted to break free, just like I had. I smiled. This wasn't just my story anymore. It was a spark for others. I met with her, and we talked openly about the toxic culture we'd endured, but more importantly, about reclaiming our power and our dreams. It felt like coming full circle, transforming betrayal into community, pain into purpose. And then, one quiet evening, I glanced at my phone. An email notification blinked with a simple subject line, opportunity. It was from a company I had admired for years, inviting me to lead a new division, a chance to shape a workplace culture from the ground up. I paused, heart pounding. This was the moment where all those years of struggle, pain, and silent battles finally made sense. I accepted. I wasn't just moving on. I was stepping up. Not as the employee who was once undervalued and dismissed, but as a leader who had learned that true strength comes from knowing your worth and never settling for less. As I closed my laptop that night, a quiet peace settled over me. The past was behind me, the future wide open, and I was ready to write my next chapter, one where loyalty was earned, respect was given freely, and no one would ever doubt my worth again.